Good morning, Jobman champions, and welcome to another webinar in our Lunch and Learn series, Volume 4. Today, we will be covering probably my favorite area of the software. That's just a personal thing. And that is the lead and item specs element of Jobman. You've probably heard on many occasions before us refer to the software as an end-to-end platform, and it really is. Everything in your business starts right at the beginning. When a client walks through your door, what they're looking for, whether they be a referred client, a new client, an old client, somebody you do a lot of business with, the beginning of that journey really starts with the lead management and how that then helps keep everyone on the same page and obviously makes the whole process a lot smoother. One of the great things about Jobman is it offers the ability to put information early into the system that's now accessible by all of your team that can then help streamline that process. So it's not just about transparency and accountability, although those are big benefits of the system. It's actually providing extremely useful data for the team to be able to then manage that process from beginning to end. So today we will be discussing leads and item specs. What are they? How to create and update them, managing them, what those item specs really are and how they benefit your business, and how to create one. The thing I wanted to bring up early in today's webinar is actually provides us an opportunity to mention to our clients that we ourselves are a manufacturer. We manufacture software. It's not in a traditional sense of manufacturing, as you probably understand it, but we certainly ourselves manufacture a product. We have departments. We have accounts departments, sales departments, security departments, development departments, or the engine room. And those departments have to work together in a seamless way to ensure that we can provide you with the best product and continue to service and benefit our clients now and into the future. So one of the things that's really worth mentioning is we ourselves use this software to manage our entire business. And one of the great benefits of that is it allows us really to discuss this solution with our clients in a really knowledgeable way. It's not just we've produced this product and we throw it out to market, but the advantage of our educational platforms is that we are in this software every day, improving our processes along the line, which is really important. And that's part of the reason I'm able to say that the leads area is my favorite part of the software, because that's where I spend most of my life in leads, with discussions with clients and following that process, making sure we're keeping on top of getting back to and following up and quoting with our potential clients and leads and opportunities. And then the information I put in at that area then flows through the software and allows other departments to be able to see that information. For example, what your CAD software is, your accounting software. So if there's any ever support or help needs there, we know exactly how to tackle your needs for your company in your solution, and that information is transparent and digitally stored in one place. It's also worth mentioning that this is one of the fastest and easiest ways to see a really good return on benefit for your software. A lot of companies come to us and the first thing they really want to improve in their life, obviously, is scheduling and capacity and streamline their processes, which Jobman is fantastic at. When you actually see what we're putting together today here and the ability to start that flow right at the beginning and really improve that front of house automation for your business, one of the very initial and fast benefits of the software is you can quickly start to improve and report on your win rates. And that, for a lot of companies, is the very first blocker. You might be extremely good in your manufacturing process and you might be looking for ways to optimize that and report on that. But if we're not bringing enough clients through and winning enough jobs, there's not enough income coming to the business to keep moving forward. So this is a really fantastic initial thing that's very quick and easy for you to get up and running in your software that can provide very immediate benefit and return on investment, which is awesome. That's another reason why it's one of my favorite parts of the software. So our objective today is to help you understand leads. I'm going to use some commonality of some terminology that I certainly hear from people, because not everyone refers to this as a lead, for example. So I want to really make sure everyone's really clear around the separation of that process, how to create, update, and manage them, how to understand and create item specs, which are a really powerful part of the software, and then how they can move forward throughout the entire process, so that from the very moment a client walks through your door, right up to the moment of service where you lease their goods or you dispatch their goods or install their goods, that information is there and available for the team. So what is a lead? If you were with us in our last web, we talked about our CRM, or our contact resource management. When I think about a CRM, and I think I mentioned this in the webinar, a CRM is really the first contact point at which you create opportunity for your business. So every day you've probably got people coming to your business, whether it be via website contact forms, automations, referred clients, Google advertising, or commercial business partners that you do a lot of work with, who are coming back to you in a constant fashion. So the CRM is really the first part. It's having the contacts in one place, making sure we can see historic evidence of whether we've done business with these people before, how much business have they provided us, what size of client are they, or even are they a new customer, how have they found us. That baseline reporting is extremely important to then help direct your company for your marketing, which is huge benefits on the software, and it's only the first area. Leads typically are the consideration of the next step. So leads for Jobman is, okay, we've had the customer relation management, we've got that opportunity, we've been speaking to that client. Now we actually want to move them into a process where we can track and manage them to become jobs. And it's a very important connection point for our software, because what we do in the lead area, which includes quoting, automatic marketing triggers, item specs for information on why they've come to us and what they're looking for, emails in and out, all of this stuff, and can be handled in the lead area, including the most important part, of course, quoting. But the beauty of your system now is, for many people, this is the first time they've had a system where all the information you put into that lead management tool will move forward with the job. So this is really important. A lot of companies come to us, and when they're first looking at integrating Jobman, like I said, their main focus is the job scheduling, and 100% that's certainly something you can get up and running very quick, and something we'll be tackling in a future webinar. But the lead management is actually that first step where we can go, well, instead of quoting in, for example, an Excel spreadsheet, you now have the ability to quote in a software where that information is now relevant and it's transparent to the team, so everyone can see what's going on. When it becomes accepted, that information can then be linked from the lead into the job. And this provides our first and most important data point, which is how much work are we winning, and then how profitable does it become. So this is a really important part of the software, but it's very easy to manage, very easy to set up, and very quick to get benefit for your business. It also puts one of the most important focal points of the operational software, which is keeping everybody on target, on mission, which makes a lot of sense for manufacturing. When you think about your engine downstairs, and you've got different departments and their operations, whether they be cutting or assembling or dispatching or quality control or sandblasting or welding. It doesn't matter what you do in your business from a manufacturing point. It's really easy to understand those objectives. We need to get this done before this can be done, before this can be done. And the ultimate aim is to get it done by a lead point, which our clients are happy with that process. So the lead management is obviously something that's left behind in a lot of companies. And it's in fact one of the most important starting points to be able to say, well, we have estimations. When a client walks through our door, how long should it be before our team is able to engage and quote, and then follow up on that quote, and then have that quote turn forward into a job, so we're winning more business. And that's somewhere where Jobman is extremely useful at keeping the team on track. And also a lot of the other operations, which commonly people tell us get missed in that process. So the estimating team might do their job and get quotes out really fast, but then there's no transparency in the company to remind the accounts department that we need to also pick up the deposit invoice so that we can actually start the job. Now all that information will be in one place. Everybody can see it. They've got their agenda screens linked to that information. So you can come in the morning, you're calm, you're under control, you know what's going on in your department, and you can really move forward. It doesn't matter the size of your business. It does not matter if you're a 2-person operation or a 200-person operation. Having the foundation of the management tool set up correctly to begin with, and then move forward into the jobs, is extremely important, and Jobman will really help you there. So the second part to that are item specs. If you previously haven't used job management software before, or you haven't looked at an ERP, quite commonly, you will find most of the information relative to a job or an opportunity sits either in someone's mind from a phone call, or it's locked away in an email somewhere, or it's written down on a piece of paper, or maybe you have a process where you use some basic foundational CRM software, and you have a few notes in there, which is, they're all good things, but the trouble with them is there's no transparency around that information. So we can't take that information and then share it easily with the team. And these are extremely important parts of the manufacturing process. Why has the client come to us? What are they looking for? How much do they want to manufacture? What are the specifics around that manufacturing, whether it be, colors or particulars or parts? Now, the cloud file storage integration that we talked about in one of the earlier webinars certainly is a massive benefit there for a lot of companies. It's that ability to take that contact, push them into a lead, and then start putting in relevant job files, which will then can be transferred into the job when it becomes further along our process, which is great. So that's our first layer of transparency. Now people can see, contracts or information around what the client is looking for. But when it comes to actually detailed specifics, one of the most difficult parts to manage on a day-to-day basis is what happens when people change their minds. And you probably deal with this every single day. A client has come to us, they're looking for a particular, I'm just using a kitchen as an example here, a particular kitchen, and they've looked at the pricing and they've discussed with the builder or our sales team, and they want to put laminate benchtops on. And then you go to quote on that process, and you have those colors mapped and the boards and all the different handles and hinges that are relevant to that job. And then just as you're about to kick that job off, the client actually comes back and your sales team's done a wonderful job and managed to convince them that they'd be far better off having stone tops. They look better, they're more durable, they last longer. It's a much better investment for return for the kitchen. Suddenly, all that information that was initially discussed with the client is now lost, and it's changed, and it's rapidly evolving. And if you're reliant on email alone, or someone's head, or bits of paper scattered around the office, there's no way of that information then transferring to the rest of the company. And one of the biggest downsides to that is that's the first point at which mistakes get made. The wrong things get purchase ordered because everyone in the team thought we were doing laminate benchtops for this client, for example. Or you started installing some gates or fencing, and the original plan was for a hardwired engine solution to run that automation of that gate. And next thing, they've turned around and gone, actually, it's an unpowered site. We're not going to be able to get power to that site for several months. It'd be better to go with a solar option, so at least we can get the security up and running early. These little changes happen almost on a daily basis, and we needed a way to be able to digitally track those, to one, limit mistakes being made further down the line, but two, just to give everyone in the team the transparency of what's going on around that job process. And this is what item specs are for. Extremely, extremely useful. They can be built as forms or questions or groups. They can even be attached via template variables to your quoting so that you can present the quote and the specs, so the client has a really clear understanding of A, what you're quoting on, but B, we've got some automation around what they asked for, so they can check the quote, they can check the specs, they're happy, everybody's on the same page, and then that information then moves forward into the job. So everyone from the front person of your process down to the actual person putting together or installing or dispatching your product, everybody's across on the same area, and they're very easy and fast to update when things change, which is fantastic. So I think what we'll do is we'll dive in, and we will have we'll have a bit of a look at these processes live in the software, so you can see them and get a good understanding for what they do. And there should be some time at the end for some questions. But this is a really exciting part of the software for me, so please forgive me if I start talking a little bit quickly. I think there's a really excellent management tool as part of the software. So we started with your contacts, and then taking that contact or that opportunity, the next step is to take them in to an actual lead. Now, since our last webinar, I've managed to get some contacts in here, so we have some people to work with, so I can actually show you this process live. It's worth noting that one of the great things about our software is, depending on the seeding site you've chosen, we actually have some lead flow built into the system. So there's some things ready to go off the bat. So even out of the box, you can jump into this software and you can really get a feel for this process. And then it's a matter of tweaking and configuring. You're not setting up from scratch, just tweaking and configuring and making this process follow yours. So the way we can take this contact now and begin our reporting process of how many contacts or opportunities are turning into leads, of those leads, how many are we winning, is it's nice and easy. We simply take the contact and we start a new lead. First step off the bat to mention is you can have multiple leads running to contact, a single contact. So this is awesome. So if you do a lot of repeat and regular business with clients, whether they be commercial or builders, for example, we take that singular contact and we start generating all the leads for that contact. And the benefit of that is each one can be tracked individually, and then each one can then turn into a job with the relevant information. What happens at the end of the year, or actually it's happening live, but as a general scope, you can now see all of the one work done with that contact. But if they ever come back to you and I say, hey, we had a process in March, we were manufacturing this with your company, we'd like to replicate that process again. It's really easy. That information is now live. You can go to the contact, find that lead, look at the quotes, look at the specs, look at the information, and then basically replicate it and do it again, which is going to improve and help some fantastic efficiencies in your business. So what does the lead management look like? The lead management is designed to offer you some really quick and easy questions to be able to start influencing this information moving forward. The idea being we want a couple of clicks and you're into the process. So everything you've sort of built or configured in the background now starts really getting to work. Build it once, use it 1,000 times. So the first thing we can do is if we had a contact person linked to this contact, we would be able then to link the primary person or person we're chatting to as part of this opportunity. And you can have multiple, as we discussed in our CRM webinar, you can have multiple contact persons linked to a contact, or we can add one on the fly. So I'm just going to come in here and say, we've done business before with Bandrock Station, have put an inquiry, but nothing ever moved forward. So now we've actually been able to come in, and they've decided to move this process forward and are actually interested in engaging us with some business. So the beauty of the software is you don't necessarily have to go backwards. We can come in here, we can create that new contact person that's reached out to us from that website form. We know who we're talking to now. So let's make that information transparent for the team. The second thing is lead types. Now, this is something we're going to go into in a far more detail in the job area because it's probably more relevant to the job area. However, these are things you can build in your software that help then navigate the type of client you're discussing. So typical companies would only probably have one lead flow, which is the process in which you follow through that lead and the team is expected to engage with. However, you might deal with multiple different contact types that have quite different lead flows. And a great example of that would be the difference between what I would call, we're just going to call them a residential or a private contact coming to you and saying, yep, I'm interested in doing some manufacturing with you, versus, say, for example, a government tender or a commercial business. So in the private flow, it's quite simple. We engage the client, we quote, we follow up the quote, make sure it's accepted and won, we send a deposit invoice, we move into the job. For a commercial or builder or government tender, there are other processes in there that may need to be done before you even get to the estimating process. For example, tender to market, you may have processes where you need to be able to go out and source information before you can even quote based on what they're looking at. You might have more meetings, you might have contracts you need to sign. All of these things can be built into this flow so that everyone's across the project management of this lead. And based on that type, it's very easy for me to quickly and simply influence the workflow that's going to come through for the lead. We can put in project names in here, which I think is very useful for most clients. Oops, bank. Station. And that gives us the ability for, as Jobman handles our job and lead numbers, we can now utilize descriptive terms, which is how I'd find most companies would refer to their lead process and then their job process going forward. Again, this is our first level of automation. The information I'm entering here will follow the whole process. So if this lead is, say, for example, for builder work or commercial work, I could put the contact is there as the builder or the commercial operator who's engaging us for the business, but the description might be Sydney Harbour Bridge, because that's the actual contract we're about to work on. That's what we're quoting, what we're estimating, that what will become the actual job itself, which is really good. The second thing is, as part of our item specs, and we're certainly going to show you how to build these, so don't worry, but again, it's one of those things that do come in with the software, so you've got a few things to look at there. This is our second layer of automation. Having some pre-configured forms, questions, and information means we can utilize the drop-down to really quickly and easily decipher what we're going to be doing in this job, assuming we win the lead. So this is an excellent layer of automation. I can simply click and choose, and I can choose multiple and say, yep, in this project, and we're going to use today's example as a kitchen build and bathroom build for a client. They've come to us, they're a private residential, and they've said, yep, we're interested in talking about a kitchen and bathroom. Fantastic. 2 clicks, and I can start bringing that information in. If the contact themselves from our CRM had a site address for the information, you could pop that in here, and I could just simply use this automation. Again, simple clicks, nice and easy. If, however, the site address is not the contact address, so where we're actually doing the work or installing or dispatching to is not the same, and this is relevant for any contact where you do a lot of repeat work, this is where we can put that information in. And now it's transparent to the whole team. We're working on that site for this contact. And you might be doing multiple jobs at once for one contact, but by separating our leads, we're then able to separate our jobs and put all that relevant information into each of those buckets, so it's nice and transparent. We can add in some notes. And one of the other fantastic things you can build into the software is basically marketing information. So you can put in what's called lead detail spec questions. They can be things like, how did you hear about us? Or what was the source of the inquiry? So straight off the bat, very quickly, we're already engaging our data points in Jobman, and we're allowing you to now report on that information and start to see where are most of our leads coming from, where are the opportunities, what are the win rates, etc. So you can see that information's all pulled through. There's other areas of information in here which are very useful, such as the priority of this lead. This can be moved up and down. We'll be covering that later down the track with jobs. But it's worth noting that if this is a really important repeat customer that you do a lot of work with, you might want to bump that priority up, and it will get shunted to the top of everyone's agenda screen, which is really important. But what are the resources that now the lead management has allowed us? Well, the first one it's brought in that task flow I keep talking about, that workflow, the foundational bedrock of Jobman. What is a workflow? And I think it's important we cover this quickly now, because it is the foundation of how the software works. A workflow is made up of 4 parts: statuses, steps, operations, and tasks. Now, we're going to cover all that in more depth in a webinar coming up, so that you get a really good understanding of how they fit together and what they do. But the foundation of any workflow is the statuses. Where are we up to in the process? It's a visibility tool. I want to be able to see very quickly and easily where all my leads are up to. For example, how many of my leads are actually currently being estimated? Super important. These are the opportunities that are turning into what could be real business. How many of those have passed through the estimation and are now perhaps in the revision status, where I need to follow up and double check and make sure the client's happy and get everything under control? And then, of course, most importantly, how many of my leads are sitting in that quote accepted status? This is the work. This is the money. This is where everything is about to happen. What do we need to get ticked off to turn these leads into jobs really quickly? We need to get our potentially our deposit invoices paid, etc. So this is really important information to be able to pull this forward into a job. Sorry. So that's how statuses work, and they're designed around automation. So as these tasks get ticked off, it will move naturally with the software. You don't need to manage this. As the team ticks these tasks off, they will move through the statuses, so you have total transparency at all time where all your leads are up to. Now, it's very important to note at this point, and I will be showing you quickly in the settings where this information lies. If this is not your workflow, these are not your words, these are not your statuses, this is not your thing, these are all very easy to change. But the point I'm showing you is this software is out of the box. I haven't done any work on it, which means the only work I'm doing is as we work together. So you can see straight away, you can start utilizing the program without having to pre-configure and set up a lot of stuff. Once you run a couple of these, you can then look at this lead flow and go, okay, I get what's going on here. This makes a lot of sense. This is awesome. I now want to change, add, modify. And this is when you start to personalize and customize the process for your business. You might want to add in and remove certain lead types so that this entire step, for example, might not be relevant to your private work. You know, your private work clients just need to be quite simplified. They come in, they have a chat, they get quoted, and then it's either accepted or it's not. So this whole process could then be tied to a different lead type, for example, commercial, where revision is important, which means if I chose the lead flow type at the beginning of that lead as residential and didn't tick on commercial, these tasks wouldn't even be here. So that's how you can utilize lead types and job types to contract and expand the flow. So it doesn't need to be this complicated. You can make it nice and easy and simple every time. And then when it does need to be complicated, we turn on those types and more things come in. Other resources available at the lead step, of course, are now the emailing in and out. So now this has moved from a contact opportunity into a real business flow. We want the ability to come in here and be able to email those clients and really keep on track of where everything is happening and up to with that opportunity. We also have the file storage, which we discussed before, which is good. So now we can start putting important lead files and relative information, specs, contracts, drawings, anything that's relevant to that lead. Now it's all in one place. It's easy for the team to find. Everything is at their fingertips. This is also our first point where we can start tracking invoices through our system. If you utilize our accounting integrations, for example, we can take accepted quotes and turn them into invoices and then present those invoices off. So now we've got some important information about where we're up to with the lead, what sort of money has been passed. Are we able to move forward with the job because this has been coming? Links to the jobs, of course, so that you can always, Jobman is always about transparency. We're going to be able to see if this lead has been turned into a job. We should be able to move between them pretty seamlessly, so that information is always available through the software. And of course, quotes. Now, we're not going to touch on quotes, so that's quite a big area of the software. That will be up in an upcoming webinar. We'll really discuss how best you can utilize the quoting. But this is where all that information sits. And at any point, you can come in here and you can create one of those items from the top menu as well. You don't necessarily need to go into the resources. The thing we do want to touch on today is these item specs. So the reason we call them item specs rather than lead specs or job specs is because a lot of Jobman is designed and designated around terminology that then does something. So items in our system are the link between the spec. When you come into the quoting, which we'll show you next time, those items themselves, those containers, those areas, I guess is a better way of describing it, such as the kitchen or the bathroom, or if you're in a different type of manufacturing, item areas could be things like laser cutting. It's an item area versus water cutting. For gates, an item area or spec could be, or fencing could be chain versus color bond versus, this is just some examples of manufacturing items and how you can utilize them for your business. So that link then becomes the item in the lead, which becomes the item in the quote, the area we're going to quote on, because each of those areas will be slightly different and have different inclusions. So it's good to separate them. And then most importantly, when this lead becomes a job with an accepted quote, those items can then be used to dictate and differentiate between the different work types in our job, which we'll be going into later. But it's basically the ability to take an item and create a work order and then separate all the information in that bucket into a different job within a job, parent-child relationship, which is incredible. All I've done so far is clicked a button, but we can really get that powerful automation through the whole system. So at the lead step, what's the importance of items is the ability to then create some fast information for your sales team or whoever in your business manages your lead process. So they've got a fast and easy access point to digitally start putting in some information relevant to that job. For example, as part of this bathroom renovation for this client, we may need to organize some electrical plumbing work. So I can create an item spec question, which is a tick box, and it's Tick that box. Now that at any point anyone needs to come back to this lead and have a look at what we'll be doing as part of this job, we can set that information. It's right there. We know it's part of this. And if it gets missed in a process, we've got a fallback point to see that information. We can put through all sorts of different groups. So even though we've got a generalized item spec, which is the bathroom or the kitchen or the laundry, and these can all be differentiated. So if I start one item spec and a different one, they'll have different questions and groups around, which is fantastic. So it can be really personalized to your business. But again, straight out of the box, there's some options in there, some examples you can utilize to really get a feel for how this works. And then you can go in and change them. And there's a lot of different question types we can put in here. So we can have just big note fields. If that's how your company is most confident, yep, I'm on the phone to a client. What are we talking about? We're talking about the tops. We're going to need to make some templates, and these are going to be 20 mil premium stone. So if that is how your team is most comfortable with entering information, put some questions in and just make it a big note field they can type away. But there are lots of other really important, interesting ways you can utilize these. You can make drop downs. So they've got quick, fast information relative to that job. So if you have things you do a lot as part of your manufacturing, I can enter that information really quickly. You can have details set up linked to material schedules, which are awesome. So you can quickly and easily start dictating the exact materials we're going to use for this job. So if, for example, they've come to us and they said, as part of our kitchen and bathroom, we're just going to be using stock standard 16 mil melamine. So we've got baseboard going on our carcasses. Put that information in now. It's there, relevant, available for the team to go back and check it at any point. If your purchase order as part of your process wants to double check the quote, make sure we've quoted everything correctly and we're ordering the right stuff, this can be their fallback with the information, really importantly. Now, one of the great things about these webinars is I get an opportunity to also talk about future developments. I think we sort of call it what's new and upcoming. And one of the really awesome developments that are coming out in the next 2 weeks is we've actually increased the power of this detailed material field here now with a browser. So you'll be able to go in and instead of just being limited to a drop down, you'll be able to access your entire catalog. It's massive. I can't state how massive that is. Such a small development, but what a massive benefit to clients. You can now personalize your item specs to such a point that you could literally detail at step one exactly what we're going to be utilizing for this job within the purview of what your sales team handles, of course. We don't need to go through and work out every part and mind a bit, but if the client is talking to you about the exact handle range they want to talk to, keep in mind, it's all digital, it's all cloud-based. I can have this with me while I'm discussing with the client. Oh, absolutely fantastic. So you're looking through my showroom. What are you interested in? Oh, yep, you want the premium handle. Fantastic. We're looking at the soft close hinges, not a problem. We'd like the 2-pack painting. Can I recommend this color range? All this information can now be put here, which is just amazing. Absolutely amazing. And like I said, these are fully customizable. You can make these questions and these areas and these specs read how you want it for your business. But it's all there. It's all transparent. It can be printed to PDF. So we know a lot of clients, even though we are going through a digital transformation with this fantastic software, still want to be able to print things out and hand things to people. It's very important as part of their job. So double checks can be taken place. This is a fantastic way you can do that. You can print this PDF. Like I said, one of the best benefits is you can link the template variable, which is item specs, to your quoting templates. So when we cover quoting in the future, you'll be able to see I can produce a quote and I can have that information there, but I don't need to go into great detail because I've done the work. The work is sitting in these item specs. The information's there. It's available. I can just link it to that quote. And then when I present it to my client, I have a really professional quote and all the inclusions. And it's really easy for them to double check. Yep, that's what I asked for. That's right. I was chatting with the sales team and I saw one of the soft close hinges. I changed my mind from the paint and actually went with the solid doors because I think they're going to be beautiful and add more benefit to my home. That information is there. They can check it. They're happy. They've got a great quote, professional, and your team has literally clicked a few things. Most importantly, though, that information is no longer in someone's head. It's not trapped in an email. It's not on a piece of paper that might get lost or eaten by the dog. That's there. So if that staff member is away for that week, anyone else in the team involved in the front of house management can come in and see, oh, yep, the client has run out Bangkok Station. Fantastic. What were they asking about? Oh, yep, I can see here. I can see what they're looking for, what they need, what this job is. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, and of course you can have multiple. So as I showed you in the beginning, just from that very simple automation drop down, I can have separate specs for the kitchens, the bathrooms, laundry, ensuite, different other manufacturing areas. Like I said, you can use this for fencing, you can use this for steel fab, boat building. What does the client come to us for? Is it going to be fiberglass, alley, tin? What are we building it? Is the joinery inclusions? What area is going to be painted? What level is this project going to be? And a lot of that information can be very quickly ascertained from just this one area, which is amazing, which is why we wanted to cover it today, because it is a big part of this flow. So the last part before we jump into some questions, of course, is how can I tailor this information for my business? It's great that you've put some inclusions in, Jobman. We appreciate it. So we've got something to work with, but I want to be able to change these nice and easy. So there's two areas that we'll look at. The first area is quickly the items. So this is where we can start to see that information pulled together. Here's where we can manage those types. So we can say, what are our different item types, break them down into those areas, kitchens, bathrooms, laundries, ensuites, chain fencing, metal sheds, prefab sheds. You can have different specs for preconditioned products. If you produce products and then on-sell them versus your actual custom manufacturing, have that as a spec ready to go. So it's really easy to say, yep, this client has come in and just bought 5 of these packs from us. Awesome, that's the spec. Off we go. We have drop and drag sort functionality, so you can easily come in here and say, actually, the most common area that we get asked about is our bathroom. So I'll move that spec to the top. So when the sales team is grabbing the drop down from the lead, it's always going to be at the top. Easy. The second part to that, of course, is the specifications themselves. It's a bit early in the morning to be using words like that. There we go. So our item specifications. And this is broken into 2 parts. You've got the groups. So that was what you saw in my specification, where I could break it down into, details about the room, details about certain components of the manufacturing itself, such as the tops, doors, drawers, kickers, handles. Imagine this for your business. If you were doing steel fab, for example, these breakdowns could be information relative to laser cutting or water cutting. It's important to note, of course, that you do not necessarily have to fill all these out with every job. The idea is it's a template. A fast, easy template that clients can, your sales team can utilize to get the important information from your client. Really important step of service, and it will massively limit the number of mistakes and headaches in your business then going forward for such an easy thing to set up. And all of these are changeable, interchangeable. You can add new ones. This is what I was saying before. You've got the opportunity with different types we can put in boxes, email addresses, URLs. That material link will bring up the browser as a detail. We can link it to our services. If you on-sell services as part of your thing, such as the electrical work or plumbing work as part of that project management of that job, we can have that link in here. You can make them such that they must be required. Whilst we don't want the entire form maybe always to be required, if there are certain things that are extremely important to your business, for example, every single job you do requires the knowledge of whether or not how we access the site, or requires which freight company the client will be using to dispatch their goods. You can create that question and make sure that it always has to be completed, and then the team will not be able to save these specs without filling that out. So there's some great accountability there as well. And then the last part to that is we can choose. So if all the questions are relevant, like my specs are set up in a pretty clean, open way at the moment, where most of those questions are relevant to any different type of area I might be working on, whether it be a kitchen, a bathroom, a laundry. They all have tops, they all have cupboards, they have doors, panels, hinges, handles, etc. But if your specs themselves are very unique to each of those different types, and this is what I was talking about with the usage of maybe the difference between chain fencing and color bond. It's just as an example. The questions around meter rates and colors are only relevant to the color bond. They're not relevant to the chain fencing. So we would choose which specs they come in. So easy to utilize, easy to make, easy to change, but very, very, very powerful. And as always, it's extremely important to note that whilst this webinar is recorded, and you are more than welcome to download it and keep it on your desktop and run through this process with me and pause and go through at any point. All of the information we've just discussed today is in your software. All the answers to those questions: how do I build, how do I change an item spec, how do I print them, how do I add them as a template variable? All of it is sitting in the software for you, hundreds of documents and lots of videos on the YouTube as well to really help you there. So don't feel that if I have moved a little bit quick, that you're missing out. Anyone involved in setting this up with your software can very easily go in and find that information. The second part I'm going to touch on very quickly just before we move into questions is, of course, the lead flow management. Like I said, we will be doing a webinar on the importance of workflows and how those breakdowns work. They are foundational to the software, and I think it's a really important area to understand. But just so you know, straight off the bat, if I want to go in and have a bit of a look and get a bit of understanding about what the guy was talking about that webinar, here it is. So sitting under our settings in our workflows, they're broken down into our jobs, different lead workflows. You can have multiple. There's no necessitation to only have one. One recommendation, top tips, we love them, that's what we're here for, is rather than simply start playing with the lead flow or job flow you get in your system, my recommendation is always take a copy. That way, if you start playing with it and then you decide you don't like it or it isn't quite working or it's a little bit broken, you can just delete that workflow and you can still come back to a base example here and modify and move from there. And I'm just going to very quickly show you how easy it is to make some of those changes, because it's a very common question we get. I've seen your software, it looks amazing, we can see the benefits. This is going to be really awesome for our business, but I've seen those ERPs, they take a lot of effort and a lot of energy to really get up running for my business. I don't necessarily have the time. I'm busy already. I'm trying to win back time. That's why I've come to you. I don't necessarily have hours in my day to be able to set this stuff up. Not a problem. We hear you. And that's one of the great things about this software. I can come in, I can take the example lead in there, I can update it, I can create my new lead type, which is going to be a commercial lead flow. I've already got a lot of the information in there ready to go. Now I'm just making changes. So I can come in here, I can add some new tasks. As part of my commercial flow, there's a revision process, and I actually also need contract sign-off. It's very important as part of this process to make sure that I can move it forward. It's a slightly different process to a residential client. I can link that sign-off to operations. Again, we'll be covering these later down the track to make sure that you get a full understanding of the statuses and operations. Like I said, is foundational to the software, but I can easily link it to an operation I already have. I can put some estimations on that time. It'll take 20 minutes to call the client and put it in. This can be done the same day as the previous task that I had in. It requires all previous tasks to be done. I need the revision to be followed. There's a flow. I need that to happen. However, you can manually or select certain tasks. So if you have operations that are independent of each other, absolutely fantastic workflows, really powerful things. Again, I can link them specifically to a type. So I only want this question to come in when I choose the lead type commercial. It's only relevant to my commercial or potentially my commercial and my builder work. And you can think about how you can use these in your business. And they're very, very useful. I can then link up triggers, which we'll be covering in another area, and I can create that task. And just like that, I've got my flow. I'm starting to make it mine. I'm really, changing the software to be more personalized for my business. These things can be drop and dragged. If that order is off, not a problem. I can drop and drag that into another. I can even move it to under a whole another area here. It's very flexible, very easy to utilize, very easy to change. One of the great things about these operations themselves then is now this flow is available to me. So I've made one small change and I can now utilize a secondary flow in my lead management system, which will differentiate between my private and my commercial builder work. And that took me all of about 3 seconds, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I think that's enough banging on from me about this. Like I said, I do apologize. I get very excited around this area of the software. It's a massive initial return on investment for our clients. It's easy to utilize and get up and running really fast, but it has so much power and potential. And just even the cost savings from those mistake rundowns, that in itself for many clients has been the payback for the software. And I know I bang on about this all the time, but this really is one of those incredible softwares where it is an investment. And every little thing you do to improve your business processes in here and use the software to help manage your business and free up your time and really help buy back the team and their time is just compounding, to the point where, we have clients who'll tell you that they're 150% more efficient and productive because of this software. And it just starts with these little things here and it rolls out to a combined effort to absolutely improve your business. Without being too difficult to set up and run. So that's the important part. That's why we run these webinars, to really show you, A, the benefits of the software, but B, how easy they are to really get up and running for your business. So as always, don't forget to jump into our YouTube channel and subscribe. If you've got enough out of today's webinar, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I am going to dive in. There are a few questions here, which is excellent to see. I'm going to try and knock a few of those on the head for you. But if you need to get on with your day, absolutely no problems. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. We hope you've got plenty out of this. And we certainly hope you like the new format with the objectives and learning-based objectives, really to help you get the software up and running in a good order that makes sense. And that's why we really are tackling this front to back. So you can see it. As always, though, it is worth mentioning, you don't have to dive in and go through this whole process from front to back. The in-app help is there for you. Hundreds of documents, plenty of videos. If you just want to jump in and the first thing you want to tackle is that scheduling, you want to get those workflows under control, you want to get your lead flow down pat and then your job flow so you can start taking advantage of the automation. And that's enough to really get the best out of this software for you today. Jump in, check out the in-app help, tweak those flows, get them working, run some tests, and then go, hey, I can see this, and move forward and win back that time. Day one. No need to wait around, which is fantastic. So let's jump in. Let's get some questions. Looks like there's a few, so that's pretty exciting. Good morning, Jess. Welcome back. I love seeing you here. Lots of fencing terminology. You're welcome. We try, and it's very difficult. We cater for so many different manufacturing areas. I try my best to be as open and transparent and think about the different ways that can be used for different companies. Like I said, we've got hundreds of different manufacturers, a lot of cabinet makers, but then a lot of steel makers, commercial joiners, shop fitters, fencing companies, glaziers, boat building, you name it, we cover it. So it's a really good universal software. So thanks for being with us again. I really appreciate it. Can Material Browser be filtered or locked to what the group is? Examples, tops can only pick from tops or catalog in styles. That's a great question, Dan. Right now, as always, when we develop a new feature into a software, especially something as powerful as this, we definitely start with the most opaque option. So we want to give you the widest range of that benefit with material browsing. So that's the first step. We program it so you can choose from everything. Now, it's worth noting, as part of that material browser, you can choose the categories on the side. So it's really fast and easy to go in and go, okay, I'm going to choose from tops. But I'm going to come in here and I've got options. I've got many different category options I could choose from. It could be stone, they could be laminate. You could have 4 or 5, could be current, it can be concrete, many different types. So we wouldn't want to limit that capability because it requires like an added layer of setup that isn't necessary to really get the best benefit of that. With that said, absolutely, I think that's something we could look at in the future. And I think there's a lot more smarts we can bring in around item specifications that will really help with that automation, including locking things to areas and maybe even really linking them. Our ultimate aim, we would love to be able to link them to products. That would be the next level. Choose an item, bring in your products, choose your styles, and you're basically pre-building your quote from a spec. Big stuff. Not going to talk more about that right now, but really exciting. So great question. I think that would definitely be possible in the future. Obviously, right now we're focused on the most important release, which is the browser. We'll go from there. G'day, Jess. I have missed this. You said specifications come in 2 parts. Groups and questions. So the groups it's actually really 3 parts if you think about it. The specification itself, which is the area. Let's just use, for your example, fencing, chain fencing. And then the second part is the group, which in my example had like the kitchen, and then the group was the room. And then the third part is the questions. So the questions relevant to that room and that type. So yeah, groups and questions, which is good, or details. Felicity, do item specs cover copy over from a lead to a job when the job is configured for the lead? Absolutely, Felicity. That's the point to them. We want to put that information in at the lead status. That will then copy into the job when that lead becomes an accepted job and moves into the job. What's even more fantastic is those specs themselves then aren't just limited in their functionality for just front of house users, so just office users. One of the really cool things we do is we also link those specs in the job to the kiosk mode. So even your on the ground team can go in and can say, hey, maybe I'm part of the manufacturing process and I'm in the assembly team, and they're looking at their pick list and they're going, that hardware doesn't make sense for this build. There's an Aventus top system, but there's all side cabinets. What's going on? They can jump in and double check those specs, even at the ground level. So it's available both to the office users and the kiosk users, which is, I think, absolutely awesome. That's that pure transparency across the board, which is fantastic. Can we update and add item specs on the fly to a specific lead, or do they need to be preset beforehand? Unfortunately, currently, because of the power and the amount of automation behind item specs, they do have to be pre-built. It's one of the few areas where you do actually kind of have to pre-build them, because they do take a little bit of thought process as well, how best to utilize for your company, obviously, which groups go with which types. It is certainly something worth spending a little bit of time just sort of getting your head around and putting together. So that's one of the few areas where we do want to actually have it set up first and then utilize. With that said, that may change in the future. One of the things we have to be very careful, though, is anytime we allow on-the-fly behavior in our software, then becomes less and less easy. That's not the right word, but it becomes more problematic to then lock that down by role. So the more things you allow people to do within your software, especially when it comes from a settings basis, it becomes more and more difficult for us to then be able to lock that. And there are some things that we still strongly feel should be handled by the person both setting up the software or the owners of the business, because they're important to your business. You sort of want to set them up and make sure they're filled. Do they need to be required? Are they absolutely important and critical going forward? So we sort of want to leave that power in your hands. Now, other things that make sense on the fly, for example, adding a contact on the fly, not a problem. It just makes sense. We should allow all our staff to be able to do that. That's not an issue. We're not going to lock it down that hard. But yeah, item specs really powerful. And like I said, there's some future development around item specs, which is going to create some excellent automation for businesses to the point where they will virtually help semi-fill out quotes. Imagine that, like you fill out the spec and then you basically have a pre-filled semi-quote and you're just adding in the details, like the speed enhancement and efficiency for businesses that could be game changing. So we certainly do want to keep them a little bit locked down. With that said, we is certainly something we may consider in the future. I never say no to anything. You never know. It's certainly a very smart team behind us here, and they certainly do take on that feedback pretty seriously. So thank you very much for your question. Any more questions? I think we've done really well for timing. So I find great sessions helpful. That's some great fit. Thanks, Jess. I want to actually read that out because I think that's really fantastic for our team to hear. Thanks to us and Deb for another great session. I have my reminders on for every single one. I'm really finding these sessions helpful, and it's good to see being done in this format. Thank you, Jess. We really appreciate your feedback. I know Deb is one of the customer service specialists here and has certainly been doing a lot of work with you in that area for that training. And it's great because we have such a really robust and communicative team. That anytime the customer service team comes in and says, Cam, we've got these new clients and they're doing these new things with the software, let me tell you a little bit about their business, and then that just helps us as as part of our education and our sales process to be able to then talk about new and interesting things and how the software can be used for those companies. So look, we really appreciate your feedback and we really appreciate you as clients. Thanks, Dan. We thank you for your time. That's the most important thing. I'm glad you're getting a lot out of these. And I think we've timed that pretty well. So we'll leave it there. Thank you, as always, for jumping on. We're looking forward to the next ones. We're starting to get into some really heavy stuff in the software now, some really useful core functionality and that's set up and used. So these are just going to get more and more exciting and really give you that benefit to move forward. And certainly I love the fact that it's a great forum where our clients can come back to us and chat to us directly with ideas and inclusions. We certainly always take them on board. Look out for the recording. Have an absolutely amazing day. And we certainly look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.